All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Curt Johnson. I'm president of CFE Save the Sound, soon to be Save the Sound, and I'm going to hand it over to Laura to introduce herself.
Hi all, I'm Laura McMillian. I'm Director of Communications at CFE Save the Sound. Thank you very much for joining us all today. And although she won't be presenting with us, we also have with us Dawn Henry, who is the chair of our committee that has been working on this effort, as well as by day a professional marketer. So we have been grateful to have her professional assistance on this as well.
Great. Well, I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing today. It's all about name unification, what it's about and when, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how we reached the decision and open it up for questions from you all or any insight you might have. And then we're going to be moving on to the second section, which is about our programs, which will remain entirely the same moving forward, and also what this means for members like you. What does this name unification mean for you? And then again, open it up for questions and any thoughts you wish to share. So thank you, and we're going to go ahead and get started about the what and the when. So it's really quite simple. Starting next month, Connecticut Fund for the Environment, Save the Sound, will be simply known as Save the Sound. So part of this is when you say Connecticut Fund for the Environment, Save the Sound, it takes a while to say it. It's a little bit complicated. And Save the Sound will be simpler. So you're going to be able to rely on the same team. That means both the staff and the board will be exactly the same. Delivering the same programs, will still be leading environmental action across Connecticut and the Westchester, New York City, and Long Island region. We fight climate change. We save endangered lands that are threatened with development. We protect the sound and its rivers, and we work with nature to restore ecosystems. That's exactly what we do now. It will be what we do moving into the future.
All right, so as Curt mentioned, we have been using two names for quite some time. As I think you all know, Connecticut Fund for the Environment and Save the Sound joined forces about 15 years ago now, and we have been using sometimes both names, sometimes one name, depending on context. And we've tried a variety of different approaches with that. What we have found over time is that two names almost inevitably causes confusion, and in some cases can even cause some waste as we produce two versions of the same product. And it divides our energy. We're trying to make sure people know who Connecticut Fund for the Environment is and trying to make sure people know who Save the Sound is. So we wanted to try to solve that challenge, and what we found is that in the Save the Sound name, we have what is a name that already has great region-wide recognition. It really resonates with people, and it's a really powerful call to action built right into the name, which is an incredible asset to have. So as we started to think about that, we brought in professionals to help us think through the ramifications of simplifying our name or changing it to something else even was an option we considered. And we conducted research with them that found Save the Sound was absolutely the best choice for a unifying name for the organization. So I'm just going to show you a little bit more about that research. So about this time last year, we worked with a professional firm to poll a mix of our members, our most engaged activists and volunteers, as well as members of the public who care a lot about the environment but are not currently affiliated with us. We did that across 4 territories: inland Connecticut, coastal Connecticut, Westchester and New York, and Long Island, to really make sure we were covering the whole region. And what we talked to them about was 5 names: the name Save the Sound, the name Connecticut Fund for the Environment, and 3 new names that we had developed. During that polling process, over 800 people responded, which is about half folks who already knew us and half who didn't yet, so great mix. And once they did, the choice was very clear. Overall, Save the Sound ranked as the most successful name twice as often as any other name, in some cases more than twice as often. People said they were most likely to get involved with an organization called Save the Sound above any of the other names. It was the name that felt inviting to them. And we found that Save the Sound already has the best brand recognition across the entire region, in every geographic area we looked at. So, given that, last spring our board decided unanimously to adopt Save the Sound as the single unifying name for our organization. Along with that, we really wanted to reinforce to people that we are still committed to every part of our region's environment. There are lands, the waters, the air, forests, wildlife, climate, as well as to the entire region. So to do that, we adopted our new tagline, Action for Our Region's Environment, which pairs with our unified name. All right, so that is the what and why. So we're just going to pause briefly for any questions or comments so far, and then we will get back into the presentation momentarily.
So far, we've heard no questions.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take that as a sign that we're doing a great job explaining. And
or that you're all busy eating your lunch, one or the other. Both are totally acceptable. All right. So just to continue talking about our continued mission, we do lead environmental action in our region, and we will continue our climate change work. Primarily that work is up in Hartford. Most of you are familiar with it. We have been leading on policy leadership on the ground projects that respond to climate threats. We've been doing this for at least 15 years. Our main advocacy, legal action, and regional partnership goals in terms of fighting climate change right now is a bill to get Connecticut to 100% renewable energy by 2040. I also want to point out that a very important part of that bill is to make our already strong climate goals in the state of Connecticut to make them enforceable by citizen groups like Save the Sound and yourselves. We're working to slash fossil fuel use from power plants, transportation, and more by 17% in the next 5 years. That's a big lift. It is what our new state law that we helped pass about a year and a half ago requires, and it is what the planet requires. So that's just a glimpse at what we're doing right now up in Hartford. I'm going to give a shout out to our partners in the Sunrise Group, which is a youth movement group. We coordinated and helped them put on a really successful lobby day just a few weeks ago, and there were over 200 folks up there meeting with our legislators talking about this action. So it's an exciting pilot that we're starting in terms of that partnership. So let's talk about preparing for and adapting to climate change. So I'll give you one example of the dam removal kind of work that we have been engaged in just the last few years. We took a dam down about about a mile and a half north of downtown Westville in New Haven. Westville is a dense neighborhood, and that dam is what we lovingly call a rotten dam. It was just about ready to fall apart, and had it fallen apart in a big rainstorm, it would have sent 6 feet of mud and slurry down into this very urbanized neighborhood of New Haven. So it's a way that removing dams not only reconnects ecosystems, brings back lots of migratory fish, but also protects neighborhoods and people from the threat of increasingly bigger deluges as a result of climate change. We're installing rain gardens and restoring coastal marshes. We just finished a huge project out on Long Island at Sunken Meadow. Really exciting, helping the park just be more beautiful, preventing polluted stormwater from flowing into the marsh and bringing back ultimately 135 acres of marshland to life. And also ensuring the state agencies consider climate in planning decisions. So that's something that we've been working on for a while, and I have to give the state credit. They're moving that policy forward pretty strongly right now. So that's climate. Lands, we have been working for more than 40 years and have been saving lands around Connecticut. As you know, we're engaged in a big battle out on Plum Island, New York. We've put together advocacy with a 110-strong coalition, and we are in federal court to stop that action. We're fighting to save 236 acres. It's almost a mile along Niantic Bay at Oswegatchie Hills. And with your help, we're going to expand and work on safeguarding 10,000 acres of watershed land up in northwest Connecticut. We're partnering with local groups to protect lands in two very different areas of the state. One is 80 acres in Greenwich, and the second is a 65-acre parcel that borders on Newhall, a historically African-American community in southern Hamden. We always are involved in guarding against rollbacks of state and federal land protection. And we certainly have our eye on Connecticut strongly right now to make sure that doesn't happen. And we should move on. In waters, so I think most of you are familiar with this. We've been working on improving and cleaning up the waters of Long Island Sound and our rivers here in Connecticut for 40 years. We have a really extensive community-based and citizen-based pollution measurement and monitoring program. We're involved right now in approximately 40 bays and harbors with 20 different groups around the Sound. We have our relatively new Bill Lucy as our soundkeeper taking over that program. He is coordinating with our lawyers and with our advocates work in probably a half dozen bays and harbors along Connecticut, cleaning them up. We work collaboratively whenever possible, but we do go to court when necessary to get sewage out of the Sound. And Bill is working hard to strengthen fisheries protections. You know, we have little silverfish here in Long Island Sound, two different species, one menhaden, one river herring. They're little fish, but they have a huge role in our ecosystem. We are bringing them back, and with that comes all the wildlife you love around Long Island Sound. And of course, many of you on the phone probably have been part of our coastal cleanup, where each year 2,500 volunteers work to clean tons of plastic and trash out of our waters. And finally, ecological restoration. I think most of you are familiar with this. Gwen McDonald runs a terrific program. We're restoring migratory fish passage right now on 4 rivers taking down, we hope, another 3 dams around Connecticut and on Long Island. We are just finishing up our largest ever restoration and green infrastructure project out at Sunken Meadow. I mentioned that. We're installing dozens of rain gardens in New Haven. We've done similar work in Bridgeport. We have hopes to do this work in New London as well. And we're involved in advocating for the design and sort of project identification of nature-based solutions to prevent flooding and absorb storm surge. We worked with the city of New Haven to get a project on a major coastal park moving forward so that 2/3 of a mile will be both protected from erosion, have more marsh there, and also be open and available and no longer dangerous for the tens of thousands of people who visit that park every year. So this is a little map that shows our work around our area. And, you know, we start up at the Mass border where we're starting to focus in on this 10,000-acre project to save watershed lands up there. It extends all the way over to Plum Island on the New York side. And we have projects that are identified here that are legal actions, that are land protection actions, that are climate actions. You know, the fighting the Killingly plant up in northeast Connecticut is a good example of that kind of climate action. So a lot going on, a lot of citizen monitoring going all around the Sound. You guys are the ones that fuel this and make it possible. We will have the same staff, the same team. You should recognize some of the people. What I love most about this is that I have just a tiny picture of myself, and everybody else is much larger. So the team is fantastic, and they will continue exactly the same, as will our board, doing the same work.
We really wanted to make sure the fish stayed in the picture, which you could.
There you go. I know, I'm happy about that. All right, go for it.
So we've talked a little bit about how our programs are continuing. I am imagining that some of you may also have questions about what the name unification sort of means for you and how you interact with the organization on a practical level. And there are really only a few minor changes to that. Beginning next month, if you are so generous as to make out a check to the organization, you can make that out to Save the Sound. If you make it out to CFE by mistake, don't worry, it will still work. We will have a doing business as Connecticut Fund for the Environment that will still go through just fine. Our website will be at www.savethesound.org, so much easier to remember. Again, if you have CT Environment bookmarked, don't worry, it will just shunt you right back into the Save the Sound website. Similarly, our staff emails will all be first initial, last name, so like L. McMillian for me, at savethesound.org. Again, our existing emails will still work, so if they're in your address book, don't worry about it. And then for now, we are keeping all our social media accounts as is. We do encourage people to follow the Save the Sound accounts on Facebook and Twitter if you're not yet, because we will, over time, be merging the CFE accounts in and closing those down. If you're also on Instagram, no need to worry, that's one account, and so that is not changing at all. So only a few minor things changing there.
If I could just add one last thing, which is we've had a long and proud history of allowing our supporters to direct their dollars towards whatever projects they're most interested in. Now, I will say that we very much appreciate all of you who are sending general support, because it allows us to focus on what the highest priority is of the moment. And if you wish to support a particular project, just like you have had the ability to do that over the last 40 years, you'll continue to have that ability to direct that if you so choose.
Yes, thank you. And in addition to that, many other things are staying the same. Our mission and programs, staff and board, as you've heard. We will still have our headquarters in New Haven and our offices in Mamaroneck and on Long Island. Our phone numbers are staying the same. The email network through which you hear from us will not change. You'll still get the print newsletter if you do currently. And our array of in-person events, from webinars like this one to our coastal cleanups to presentations and forums in your town, that array of events will still remain the same, as well as all your other membership benefits.
All right. Well, listen, we can't do this without your guys' support. So, we're just a little tiny team of people, but with your support, we make big things happen. So, thank you.